Hello, and welcome to the Green Island podcast. I'm Bernard Sheehan, joined by my co author of Hard Border, James Sheehan. Hard Border is our novel that takes place during the time of Brexit and really talks about more modern day Ireland and some of the things going on. And that's what this podcast is about, too. Obviously, it's a little bit removed from Brexit, but we want to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on over there and talk about some larger issues as well, and also have a little bit of fun if we can. So, James, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
No, great to be here. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we got some stuff to talk about and can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, I think we've talked a fair bit previously on one of our other podcasts regarding like the fires that were going on with hotels that were around potential either refugees or migrants or whatever you want to call them. And one of our big takeaways on it was that the government needs to do something and be proactive here, because if they didn't do something and they kind of continued on this path, it looked like it was eventual that somebody was going to get hurt, right? That hurt or killed, because these things were going to continue to happen. Protests have continued on. We really haven't touched on it all that much. They've also announced other places where folks are going to be housed, but we haven't seen any more kind of burnings as of yet. But one of the interesting developments that happened the other day, and this is, as we're recording this, is kind of around the time of Davos and the World Economic Forum annual meeting, and the Taoiseach was there, and I don't know if he made an announcement per se, but there was an article that they were thinking that the Irish government, instead of accepting more refugees or accepting more folks, would prefer to really kind of foot the bill and help other countries take on those burdens, if you like, as they were having infrastructure problems in Ireland, having a hard time dealing with. I think he had mentioned something like a couple 100,000 of Ukrainians in the last 2 years, or about 100,000, should I say. So that was already stretching them thin. So they'd rather be a source of funding for it rather than taking care of it themselves. So I don't know if that's in response to some of this pushback, but if nothing else, it's at least a proactive announcement that that could be coming to an end. But we'll see. I think that's really been something of our position here, is to really watch and see what's going on and how it comes together. But at the end of the day, at least when I sent this out to you and we looked at it, it was just like, did the government blink here? Because they definitely could have pushed forward and said, screw you, we're just going to be putting more people in and we're going to be taking over more hotels. But it doesn't seem like that's at least the message that's going out there.
Well, I think it's kind of, I got, like, my sister's brother lives in Australia and he sent stuff just from the papers there about how people are kind of stopping, the refugees coming into their counties, or like, we're full, these signs are out there,
Right.
and stuff. So I think this is getting quite popular, and including like Germany and the new governments that are going into Europe. Apparently, I heard this is going to be the biggest election year of all time across the world, of like, free elections, hypothetically, that kind of can make change.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of them are looking to kind of start deportations, which is another kettle of fish altogether, because I think it started riots in Germany just a couple days ago about even suggesting that. So, and I know Trump is suggesting it as well, but I mean, what are you going to do about it? So things are going to get interesting quick enough. And I think the Taoiseach had no other choice, because there's nothing he can do. Do you think he's actually closed the gate? Absolutely not. It's
No.
like, okay, we got another 6 months. Let's see if we can get another 300,000 in. So, I mean, words are words, especially with these guys. They've just been played out so much that, I would say the fires are not going to stop.
Yeah.
The signs are going up now, so it's like, yeah, but you can say all you want, but they're not going to stop it. It's cloak and dagger. So it'll be interesting to watch. And on top of watching that, I mean, Conor McGregor is coming up for his fight again. We have
Mhm.
Conor Watch, and some interesting news. He declared his fight would be June 29th
Yeah.
in Las Vegas. But according to the UFC, or the president, Dana White, who's pretty popular, you would know him in the news, has not given a date. And like that was a day ago
Right.
after a big fight that happened in Canada or whatnot. So,
On the topic of Roadhouse, that leads to Conor McGregor. Can you clarify what's going on with him? Because he announced that he's fighting June 29th. Obviously, nothing official has come from the UFC.
Right.
Is that what you guys are leaning towards? I know you made some comments this week, too, in an interview, I think, with Sportsnet, and maybe it was taken a little bit out of context in terms of like the clarity. So where do things stand with Conor right now? Is he fighting in June?
No. If when Conor's ready to fight, we'll announce it. That's what we do.
June is a possibility, though?
I don't know.
Okay.
Good?
so Conor is still no confirmed date just yet. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, but even targeting summer, I mean, that's a good run up, about 6 months to train and whoever his opponent is. And then also, if he does go for president of Ireland, and that is kind of a good launching point at that stage, regardless, to kind of move into that kind of campaign mode and have enough runway there to make his run at it, so to speak. So I think that's, if not, even if that's not the final date, kind of end of June, it's still probably a good target timeline for him.
Oh, big time, exactly. So he's calling the shots, or so he thinks he is, but I don't think the UFC has given him that date just yet, because that's a prime spot. That'd be awesome, and so let's hopefully it kind of works out for him.
Yeah, and it's the UFC is probably going to give him whatever he wants, though, even though Dana White, as you were saying, hasn't locked it in, because they know he's such a moneymaker. He is going to bring a crowd. He'll be bringing Irish folks flying in, as they always have for all of his fights, and they're just a huge success for him. And that's there's no way that can't be the case. So even if this is the tail end of his career from that standpoint, he's still going to bring a huge crowd and a lot of excitement with him.
Yeah, he'll have one big bite of the cherry left,
Yep.
so he's going to milk it for everything he's got. And no better spot than Las Vegas center stage, let's play it out. So hopefully he gets that date and is prepared and wins, because if he wins, then he'll almost roll into the presidency in some way, shape, or form. Because, I mean, it would just be a laugh then. I mean, talk about the Netflix documentary, would just be hilarious.
Yep, and we've been encouraging that and hoping he's recording everything, because that's really the case, is to get that Netflix documentary, win, lose, or draw, to be able to see that process and have him out there doing his thing.
Oh, 100%. It'd put Ireland on the map. It'd be awesome.
Yep. Yep. I mean, it's fair to say Ireland's on the map already with everything that's going on. But at the same time, he definitely is quite the ambassador. Maybe not the traditional ambassador, but somebody who garners a lot of attention and really wears his, for lack of a better term, his Irishness on his sleeve, and is proud of where he comes from.
But no better ambassador than the current president, who looks like a leprechaun. Like he really fit the bill. So I mean,
Good.
in honor of him, we might have to do a quick segment on the leprechaun. Because even though this podcast is all about like current events and keeping it real, bringing some Irish heritage, especially when the leprechaun comes out in pretty big fashion every year around, for St. Patrick's Day. So I think we're, doing kind of the folklore about the leprechaun and kind of putting in perspective for the listener would be pretty fun.
Well, I think that's the thing too, with the leprechaun as a symbol or as an entity or what have you. It's really more Irish Americans, and Americans in general think of Ireland, they think of a leprechaun. Just like you would think of like New York and the Statue of Liberty, versus Irish people in Ireland don't really think of it. In fact, it's almost a little bit of an insult. Like, here comes an American asking me about a leprechaun again. And it's but it's got quite an interesting backstory, though, and is a part of folklore in Ireland, very much like the banshee and some of these other things. But it's not. It's just amazing how it's captured really Irish Americans and the imagination over here. Definitely more than Irish folks.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame, what is it? Their logo has
Yep.
probably the most famous logo in maybe sports, or a
Yep.
good bit of it anyway.
And the
And of
Boston
course,
Celtics also have like a
Boston,
leprechaun.
yeah, probably
Yep.
the best franchise of any sport in history, maybe, or
Yeah.
around there. So it's pretty and everybody claims to be Irish just on St. Patrick's Day. So
Right.
definitely a lot to kind of symbolize, but really understanding kind of the folklore of Ireland, because it is kind of, if you look at the hard border, it's not all sunshine and roses and pints and parties,
Right.
there is some understanding of how these kind of legends came to be. It's not just a fun laugh, because it does shape the people that live on the island and who they interact with, for generations to come. And so, like, I mean, our experiences are shaped by these, and the leprechaun, the greedy leprechaun, that sums up a lot of people I know,
It
after the
does.
pursuit of money. And whether that is folklore, or maybe that's an imagery, or someone that describes kind of a person, but the Irish and their money, man, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it when they, it's an addiction, and it's like Gollum off of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So I think it's kind of quite interesting to see, and it'll be interesting again. The Colin McGregor, you have 600 mil. Let's see if you burn 200 million and really kind of shake things up, or is it kind of more publicity to make more money? And I think that's kind of the question that I see. But yeah,
Well,
the leprechaun.
that was the thing that was interesting, kind of going through like the research a little bit on it and trying to see how far back it goes. I mean, the idea of a leprechaun does go back quite a ways, but it's really only been written about in the last, 500 years or so. And the first story out there was yeah, the idea of a leprechaun taking the king of Ulster, and there were three of them, and they were going to drown him in the sea. So right out of the gate, they're um, kind of wicked is like a term that I would use for them. They're not really they're not benevolent beings at all. And another thing I found interesting was that there's no such thing as a girl leprechaun. They're kind of solitary male figures out there, like, short, 3 feet tall, or so. So definitely something like akin to, like you were saying, like an elf or a fairy or something like that. But they are not. They're not there to help you out. they're there as to trick you in ways, and also to kind of be something of a sparring partner. And as you said, it's that greed of the gold, but it's also like that hoarding it, that they've got that pot of gold, or they've got, how they even got access to gold is even an interesting idea. That it's not like Ireland is known for its gold mines or anything like the 49ers out in California back in the day. It's just that obviously they got it somehow, and they've been hoarding it, and maybe they'll share, but probably not.
I don't think they're going to share. I think they're going to get more gold from other people by trickery or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's they're deceiving, they're mischievous. Well, however they are, they're a particular spirit almost that kind of hoards their gold. But the hoarding is particular, and like if you can catch them. But I'm assuming they steal other people's gold as well. And welcome to the real world.
Right.
Be taken. And it's very popular, very, they love it. The powers that be, see the leprechaun revels in that. So I did a little research on the leprechaun as well, just looking at it, and it's it's kind of every little bit that he has. Like you would think, oh, he likes shoes, but the shoes are like magical shoes. That's the fairy tale, like that he could go in water and underwater. So it wasn't like, oh, a leprechaun, oh, they love their shoes. There's a particular story to it, and I watched like a little documentary, just like 15 minutes on YouTube, and they was just saying that all the powers he has are kind of from all the gods that they're pulling from. So it could be like the cauldron full of gold is another kind of symbol for the gods, and that has a particular power. And so it's an all-in-one compassing kind of that's shaped into the imagery of this little leprechaun, you know?
In this tale, Fergus ends up capturing the leprechaun king, who is shown to be extremely knowledgeable and not unfair. The leprechauns threaten to take the milk from the cows, to burn down the mills, to dirty the water, and to snip the ears from the corn if their king is not freed. Yet the only threat that frightens Fergus is the threat that the leprechauns will shave everyone's head bald. Finally, wishing to avoid conflict, Yuvdan, the king of the leprechauns, offers Fergus his treasures, saying, "Take my spear, oh take my spear, Fergus, that has enemies in number. In battle it is a match for 100, and a king that holds it will have fortune among hostile spear points. Oh take my belt, gold and silver appertain to knowledge of it. Sickness will not lay hold on him that is encircled by it, nor on skin encompassed by my girdle. My cauldron, a special rare thing, though they were stones that should go into my cauldron, yet would it turn out meat befitting princes." He goes on to list a powerful sword, a shirt that fits anyone, a timpan, a needle, sheep that are eaten and revive the next day like the goats of Thor, his horse rod, and his magic shoes that take one over land and sea. This list is effectively a list of all the magical items in possession of the various gods. Lugh, for instance, was said to have the reviving goats as well as the spear, and the cauldron appears to be very similar to the cauldron of the Dagda. But this isn't the first time in myth that we see an offer like this with such a list of items.
And it goes even further about what the term leprechaun comes as, that it's actually a Latin term according to Oxford experts. And, you know, it has to do with some medieval dance or something. And that's why a leprechaun does a dance, I guess. So there's a lot of this sort of imagery that no one would know. All they know.
So what does the name leprechaun itself mean? Early modern writers sometimes took the name to be derived from lu, meaning small, and corp, meaning body. However, a recent extensive study of the Old Irish language by scholars from Cambridge and Queen's University Belfast have found that the word is very likely borrowed from Latin, from a very unexpected source. Every February 15th in Rome, there was a festival called the Lupercalia. A group of young men served as priests called Luperci, and they would gather at the Lupercal cave at the base of the Palatine Hill in Rome, where Romulus and Remus were said to have been suckled by a she-wolf. There they make a sacrifice of a goat, and then make a thong of the flayed goat hide, and run naked through the streets of central Rome, circling the Palatine Hill, striking those that they come across with the thong. Being struck by the thong was thought to be good luck and bring fertility, and it was said that women would sometimes purposely line up in order to be hit by these men. Even after the banning of paganism in Rome, there is proof that the celebration continued at least 100 years later. For in 494 AD, the Pope denounced the practice. The Senate apparently resisted the move, saying that it was vital to Rome's safety and well-being, and were promptly mocked by the Pope Gelasius, and told to go run naked through the streets themselves then. What might any of this have to do with leprechauns? The Lupercalia was thought associated with Pan, or a local Roman manifestation of a similar deity. The name likely derives from lupus, wolf, but it's unlikely that this connection has anything to do with the leprechaun origin. More likely is that the early Irish Christians saw a similarity between this luck-bringing, fertility-bringing festival and the character of the leprechauns, who originally may simply have been a type of dwarf, or more specifically a subterranean but largely beneficent spirit which helps bring prosperity and fertility.
but the Leprechaun is the Jennifer Aniston 1980s movie, which I saw in theaters and I was scared as all could be. So it was great. But however, I think even us being 100% Irish, not necessarily Conan O'Brien Irish, but 100% Irish, that we need to know or should know kind of what happened. What's the deal with the Leprechaun, since it's everywhere,
Right.
for the most part.
And the movie that I always bring up around the Leprechaun is Darby O'Gill and the Little People. That was actually a Disney movie from the 50s, and it was interesting because Walt Disney went and studied about Irish folklore and everything before making that movie. So it was really interesting to see them weave it in, and it is good. I mean, it's dated. It's got a super young Sean Connery there, and there is kind of that trickster, piece about it. But at the end of the day, it's Disney, so it's not like a horror movie like that, 90s era Leprechaun films. But at the same time, they're still kind of screwing everybody over, and it's not, again, they're not like benevolent creatures trying to help out people. They're in it for themselves, which maybe that captures a certain aspect of Ireland in general.
Yeah, and if you refer to the book, I mean, like Ireland throughout forever, it's known for the fighting Irish because they used to fight amongst themselves, as who's going to be king and who's going to have the money. And that's why it's the fighting Irish. It's not like they fought against the English. No, they're too busy fighting amongst themselves, which is pretty much laid out in Hard Border, chapters 5 or something like that. So it's important to kind of understand that the greed is a very important element to understanding the Irish psychology. If Freud says an Irishman cannot be psychoanalyzed, but once you put greed into the equation, it becomes quite clear. It's kind of like the devil, so to speak. It's a demon or whatever. It's interesting, anyways. But I think that sums up the Leprechaun in total. But I mean, it's definitely something there, because I don't think I've understood that these sort of fairy tales, you need some type of reference, that the human brain can't just create it. They need some type of reference to have seen it or done something with it. So based on what we're seeing now a lot in kind of the paranormal world, there's possibilities that something's there that would represent something like that. But if not, it's definitely the human nature then that might be describing the good old leprechaun.
Well, especially that piece too, the story, like, okay, they got the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and if you capture them, you'll get wishes out of it or get the gold. I mean, it's almost like playing the lottery, right? It's just like, okay, this is the only way I'm going to make money, or this is the way that I'm really, my ship is going to come in type of mentality, is that I need to catch the leprechaun. It's not that I'm going to be able to work for it and make money, an honest buck. It's going to be kind of pseudo trickery, and it's going to be catching that guy unawares and being able to take his gold that he's taken from other people. So that type of psychology is definitely still alive and well.
And what happens if the leprechaun doesn't give it to him? You're supposed to kill the leprechaun or something? I mean, that's pretty much the real world. Like, give me your money or I'm going to kill you, or, set you up. I mean, welcome to the real world. So is it kind of like a persona of kind of, maybe there was a guy back in the day in 300 AD or something, like a little tyrant that was a midget that had this spirit in him, and he had his pot of gold, and that's the imagery off of him. But they're not necessarily, I mean, a lot of people hoarding gold, that's nothing new, and a lot of people killing them are just like, give me your gold or I'll take your life. It's just, so
Right.
Sounds like a good normal day,
Yeah, not much has changed over the time, for sure. And it's also you could definitely see, like, at least in the story that I had with the King of Ulster, I mean, there seems to be that royal tie-in quite a bit as well, that it's not just your average person that's going to be coming across leprechauns. It's going to be powerful people, and they're going to be the ones who essentially have access to this gold some way or other.
Yeah, and exactly. That's exactly our front men, maybe, for the good old leprechaun or something like that, but well described in Hard Border. of how the world works, particularly on the small island of Ireland. So definitely a good read, fictional. So definitely worth having a read. But I believe it for true. It's just that kind of a personality, you might say, or something. But
Yep.
the good old leprechaun is alive and well in Ireland. It's just it manifested it in certain people that want to hoard everybody, and alive and well. Never lost step.
Yep, it's definitely part of the psychology, and that's other stuff that we're going to be talking about too, like how the folklore and some of these other aspects really are part and parcel of the psychology and personality of the people who live there, at least in our experience.
Man, I was telling you, I know I text you, but I mean, I sent you the thing to watch the Banshees of Inisherin or whatnot. My wife put it on, and it's a deep watch, but it's from an Irish perspective, it's very funny because even they have that type of, it's dark. It has that like girl that's ghoul by the lake who's
Call him Sonny Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
Who says we're not? Sit somewhere else. Now, if I've done something to you, just tell me what I've done to you.
When you didn't do anything to me. I just don't like you no more.
You didn't like me yesterday.
Why does he not want to be friends with you no more? What is he, 12?
What the hell's going on with you, me feckin' brother?
He's dull, Siobhan.
But he's always been done.
The other night, 2 hours you spent talking to me about the things you found in your little donkey shite that day.
Well, it wasn't me little donkey's shite, it was me pony's shite, which shows how much you were listening.
If you don't stop talking to me,
Colin!
and if you don't stop bothering me, I have a set of shears at home, and each time you bother me from this day on, I'll take those shears and I'll take one of my fingers off with them, and I'll give that finger to you until I have no fingers left. Does this make things clearer to you?
Not really, no.
Starting from now. But shush like, Polly. You know, shush like.
Yeah, I'd shush like. Would you not want him to have to do the one finger to see if he was bluffing like?
No, we wouldn't.
Because worst comes to worst, he can still play the fiddle with 4 fingers, I bet ya.
Going back to your own gang now, Polly.
And talking to me! Are you?
Why aren't you talking to Porrick no more?
That wouldn't be a sin now, would it, Father?
No, but it's not very nice either, is it?
Do you know who we remember for how nice they was in the 17th century?
Who?
Absolutely no one. Yet we all remember the music of the time. Everyone to a man knows Mozart's name.
I don't, so there goes that theory.
Can't be waiting around for any more of this madness.
Let's just call it quits.
We won't call it quits. We'll call it the start.
like the old lady that looks like a ghoul, and they all call her ghoul. And it's just like having been to Ireland for, if you combine it, years, decades, if you combine all of it together, like there is those characters, especially when we grew up, the girl that had teeth everywhere, the old lady that you didn't know if she was a witch, that was just 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Imagine I think this is in 1920s, right during the Civil War, or at least World War I. And it's it's a good watch, particularly the beginning, because you'll just have a laugh because for people that know Ireland, my wife was like, oh my God, it's like Granny's house,
Yes.
so to speak, and all that. And it's like just the way they act, and they did a really, really good job. It went for a freaking turn, which I don't want to spoil for anybody, but you got to watch it, and maybe we'll circle back on it because they played that ghoul like this evil girl that just, it's up, I think, around Mayo, which is just dark, what we're looking at Hard Border. It's that grounds,
Right.
with rocks and stuff. So it's very, very appropriate. But it's if you want to see the Irish mentality, because I watched it like 2 days ago, and I still can't stop thinking about it to a degree,
All right.
which is kind of rare for me for a movie. You'll kind of say it was dark,
Yeah, you've sold me. I didn't realize it was a period piece. I thought it was just modern day, that they just happen to be on an island and, or, you know, kind of off the beaten path or West Coast or something. Because a lot of these towns are frozen in time. They haven't changed all that much. Certainly with the Celtic Tiger, when there was a lot more money, things changed a bit. You know, you start seeing flashier cars. Everybody had a cell phone or two. Whereas when we were growing up, you know, not everybody even had a landline phone. So it was definitely frozen in time. So I never copped on that that was a period piece at all. So, all right, yeah, I'll give it a whirl, and we can talk about it, you know, maybe a little bit more down the line here.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely worth watching. I know it's maybe 2 years too late because they were like winning awards for it, but I thought it was very like for one of those you know, movies that kind of you remember. I don't think I've had that since maybe what was it? It's just sad. I won't get into it,
Okay.
but it's just like but the Irish mentality is ripe from, you know, with it. It's a good watch if you want to understand the Irish people. But I mean, and it's almost so you'll see the extent of the whole of it. But yeah, the
Awesome.
interesting thing about the leprechaun, everybody. So money's definitely the big issue across at least in Ireland, you know. And I thought it was appropriate that we have a quick chat about the folklore and kind of get into it, because I think that is definitely part of the psychology. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cover of our book and what side you're sitting on, but it's we might as well delve into it as it becomes more popular with mainstream media about whatever else is out there. I mean, Ireland has deep forests and has ancient lands, and we might as well explore a little bit of it for the audience.
Yeah, and more of this is really becoming out there. So whether you believe it or not, or you know, certain people do, and they are acting on it, and you see just weird stuff. Obviously, we had mentioned kind of Davos there. There was some weird ceremony at the end there. It's like, what is going on here? I mean, and that's really kind of the case, and Ireland is deep in that. So we definitely want to talk about it and make sure we're capturing it and exploring it.
It's possible Ireland might actually be the epicenter of it, at least for Europe. You
Yeah.
know, like I mean, if you want to track the movements way back when in ancient times, it's kind of not far off that Israel, they went straight from like Israel, Spain to Ireland.
Yep.
You know, there's not much in the middle. So it's definitely the spot where you know, a lot of things are going on.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else we want to talk about here? We can wrap it up for this session, and again, continue to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with some of the things we've talked about, and also look out for new things that are cropping up here in addition to kind of some of our larger overlays.
Yeah, and we'll watch the Ryder Cup, because we were supposed to talk of more depth about it last episode, and you know, we'll talk about that more because there's a lot going on, but it doesn't look like the government's going to meet the timelines to actually get it there. It's been announced. Now, maybe it won't affect the golf course, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll have like maybe the road is not part of the deal. I'm not sure. Like that's probably the next bit of information. And I also wanted to come back about my Conan O'Brien research about his 100% Irish, and whether all four parents are from Ireland, or at least all four of their parents, or whatever, just to make sure, because I mean, the fans got to know if Conan is not honest with us, you know. If he's 100% Irish, I kind of expect that the proper numbers will add up for a valedictorian / Harvard graduate, you know?
Yeah.
So we will get to the bottom of that eventually, and I'll keep the fans posted.
Well, one thing we know about Conan, he's definitely not a leprechaun, because he's like 6'5". He's like your height. So it's, you know, he's not going to fit the bill there. But, you know, we'll find out more if he's fully Irish or not, and keep coming back to that. So with that, Jay, I think we can call it for today. Really appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.